HarperCollins presents Joker Moon, a Wildcards mosaic novel, edited by Melinda M. Snodgrass, assisted by George R.R. Martin, and written by Christopher Rowe, Michael Cassett, Leo Kendon, Steve Perrin, David D. Levine, Victor Milan, John Joss Miller, Mary Ann Mohanraj, Walter Simons, Melinda M. Snodgrass, Caroline Spector. Read by Maya Saroya.
The Moon Maid by Mary Ann Mohanraj. Part 1, 1948. Aarti ducked into the Bird and Babe, hoping that she wasn't too late to snag her favourite corner for lunch. Thankfully it was free. The Inklings hadn't descended on it yet, with their smeared manuscripts and typical high spirits. They'd probably be in soon. It was Tuesday after all, but if she were firmly ensconced, then perhaps they would let her keep it and find somewhere else for their literary endeavours. She slid onto the bench beside the fireplace, thankful for the heat. After 3 years in Oxford, she still hadn't adapted to the dampness of English winters. A nasty February drizzle fell on the cobbled streets outside, and she shrugged off her soggy coat with relief. The dark, panelled walls added to the coziness of the room, and for a moment she could forget England, forget Oxford, maybe even forget that her heart was breaking. The server came over to wipe down the table. "It's good to see you, Miss Aarti. How's the painting going?" He'd seen her in here with paint-smeared fingers often enough. "Fine, John, fine. Just had a show, actually." Her first gallery show, which should have been a triumph. Aarti was studying astronomy because that's what her father expected of her, what her scholarship was for, the scholarship that had brought an Indian woman all the way to England, where she could be a prodigy, a curiosity. A woman at Oxford was rare enough, though more common since the war had taken so many brave young men. A brown woman at Oxford was unheard of. She loved astronomy. The first time one of her teachers had let her look through a telescope at the moon, she had gasped in wonder. But Aarti had a second passion. She loved to paint. Her family hadn't taken it seriously, but in this town, at least a few people thought she had real talent. Did she have to pick between the glory of the stars and the glory of paint on canvas? Couldn't she have both? "Where's your young man?" John didn't mean to be cruel. He was just used to seeing her come in with Raj. Aarti had never actually been in a pub by herself, and Appa would be furious if he saw. But she was 20 years old now, and her father was in Bombay. She didn't really care what he would think. "He's gone, John. Gone for good this time." Raj had never found it easy, putting up with Aarti's sharp tongue, but their families had been pushing the match hard, and there weren't that many reasonable prospects for a boy like him in Oxford. Even fewer for her, of course, and they'd had art in common at least, attended lectures together, painted dozens of dour English landscapes side by side. But eventually she abandoned the English landscapes and started painting her work instead. Galaxies and constellations bloomed across the canvas. The rings of Saturn, the moons of Jupiter. And the moon. Oh, Aarti loved to paint the moon in all her phases. The craters and mountains, Mare Imbrium, Mare Serenitatis, Mare Tranquillitatis, Mare Crisium, also called the Sea of Crises, Mons Pico, Mons Argaeus, and the craters, Aristarchus, Busango, Copernicus. She memorized a host of them, from A to Z. Zagat. Copernicus, Tycho, and Kepler's bright rays were a pleasure to paint, and she couldn't resist the Alpine Valley, Bay of Rainbows, and the Straight Wall. But Aarti had her personal favourites too. Mons Argaeus sat between Serenitatis and Tranquillitatis on their eastern border. She painted it over and over again, drawn to it for reasons she could not name, and with each repetition the work improved. Another layer of paint, or perhaps a scraping away, highlighting the curve of a dark sea, the play of light and shadow on mountain rise. At first Aarti painted the images as if from a ship, circling the moon, gazing upon her, but over time the perspective shifted, until at last it was as if you walked the surface yourself, and the mountain rose before you in edged chiaroscuro. As it turned out, other people loved her moon paintings.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?